The Old Testament, particularly the book of Daniel, contains significant prophecies that many believe refer to the Antichrist. These prophecies give us insight into the character and actions of this future figure. Daniel 7 verse 25 describes a powerful figure who will oppose God and his people. This verse says, "He will speak words against the Most High God and wear down the saints of the Most High, and he will intend to change the times and the law, and they will be given into his hands for a time, times and half a time, 3½ years." This verse shows that the Antichrist will speak against God, oppose the holy people, and attempt to change set times and laws. Those whose faith is in God will be under his control for a specified period. Daniel 8 verses 23 to 25 talks more about this mysterious person. In the latter period of their reign, when the transgressors have finished, a king will arise, insolent and skilled in intrigue and cunning. His power will be mighty, but not by his own power, and he will corrupt and destroy in an astonishing manner, and he will prosper and do exactly as he wills. He shall corrupt and destroy mighty men and the holy people, and through his shrewdness he will cause deceit to succeed by his hand, influence. He will magnify himself in his mind. He will corrupt and destroy many who are at ease, secure. He will also stand up against the Prince of Princes, Jesus Christ, but he will be broken, and by no human hand, but by the hand of God. This passage shows the Antichrist as a deceitful and cunning leader who rises to power in the latter times. He will prosper through deception, destroy many, and stand against Jesus Christ, but ultimately he will be defeated by God. How the book of Daniel describes the Antichrist. In Daniel 7 verse 25, the Antichrist is a blasphemous ruler who opposes God's people and tries to change fundamental laws and times. This oppressive reign is permitted for a limited time, emphasizing that God remains in control. Daniel 8 verses 23 to 25 presents the Antichrist as a cunning and deceitful leader who gains power through intrigue and deception. His reign will be marked by destruction and opposition to Christ, but his end is assured by divine intervention. New Testament prophecies. The New Testament also speaks about the Antichrist, particularly the epistles of John and Paul. These writings help us understand the nature and timing of the Antichrist's appearance. Children, it is the last hour, the end of this age, and just as you heard that the Antichrist is coming, the one who will oppose Christ and attempt to replace him, even now many antichrists, false teachers, have appeared, which confirms our belief that it is the last hour. 1 John 2 verse 18. It also identifies the Antichrist as one who denies the Father and the Son. Who is the liar but the one who denies that Jesus is the Christ, the Messiah, the Anointed? This is the Antichrist, the enemy and antagonist of Christ, the one who denies and consistently refuses to acknowledge the Father and the Son. 1 John 2 verse 22. In both 1 John 2 verse 18 and verse 22, the Antichrist is anyone who denies that Jesus is the Christ and denies the Father and the Son. The presence of many antichrists is seen as a sign of the end times. Additionally, 1 John 4 verse 3 states, "And every spirit that does not confess Jesus, acknowledging that he has come in the flesh, is not of God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard is coming and is now already in the world." This describes the spirit of the Antichrist as already present in the world, rejecting Jesus and promoting deception. 2 Thessalonians discusses the man of lawlessness, who is often equated with the Antichrist. "Let no one in any way deceive you or entrap you, for that day will not come unless the apostasy comes first, that is, the Great Rebellion, the abandonment of faith by professed Christians. And the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, the Antichrist, the one who is destined to be destroyed, who opposes and exalts himself so proudly and so insolently above every so-called god or object of worship, so that he actually enters and takes his seat in the temple of God, publicly proclaiming that he himself is God. 2 Thessalonians 2 verses 3-4. What 1 John and 2 Thessalonians say about the Antichrist? 2 Thessalonians 2 verses 3-4 introduces the man of lawlessness, who will exalt himself above all gods and proclaim himself to be God, setting himself up in God's temple. This figure is a central antagonist in the end times, opposing God and deceiving many, but his ultimate defeat is assured. By examining these biblical references and prophecies, we gain a clearer understanding of who the Antichrist is and what his role will be in the future according to the Bible. This knowledge encourages believers to stay vigilant, discerning, and faithful to the teachings of Christ. How would we know the Antichrist? The Bible provides clear descriptions of the characteristics of the Antichrist, revealing his nature and actions. Understanding these traits helps us recognize and resist these deceptions. Deception and false miracles. The Antichrist will be a master of deception, using signs and wonders to mislead many. The coming of the Antichrist, the lawless one, is through the activity of Satan, attended with great power, all kinds of counterfeit miracles and deceptive signs and false wonders, and by unlimited seduction to evil and with all the deception of wickedness for those who are perishing, because they did not welcome the love of the truth so as to be saved. 2 Thessalonians 2 verses 9-10. This verse indicates that the Antichrist's power comes from Satan, enabling him to perform impressive miracles that serve his lies. These deceptive displays of power will deceive those who are not grounded in the truth. What kind of signs and wonders the Antichrist will perform? The Antichrist will perform miraculous signs that appear to be divine, but they are meant to validate his false claims. These signs will be so convincing that many will believe he has divine authority. These supernatural abilities will support his deception, making his lies seem credible. In what ways the Antichrist will blaspheme God? The Antichrist will openly speak against God, his name, and his dwelling place. What are the specific characteristics that identify the Antichrist according to the Bible? The Antichrist's efforts to change times and laws show his desire to disrupt God's established order. The Antichrist's rise to power. The rise of the Antichrist is a significant event in biblical prophecy, marked by his gaining of immense political and religious influence. How will the Antichrist gain political and religious influence? The Antichrist will gain political and religious influence through a combination of deceit, miraculous signs, and a powerful persona that captivates the world. It was also given to him to make war with the saints, God's people, and overcome them, and authority and power over every tribe and people and language and nation. All the inhabitants of the earth will fall down and worship him. Everyone whose name has not been written since the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who has been slain as willing sacrifice. Revelation 13 verses 7-8. This passage shows that the Antichrist will be given authority over all nations and peoples. His powers and miraculous acts will deceive many, leading them to worship him as a savior and powerful leader. What nations or groups will the Antichrist control? The Antichrist's control will extend over a wide global empire, as depicted in Revelation. His influence will encompass various nations and ethnic groups worldwide, representing a unified rebellion against God. I saw one of his heads which seemed to have a fatal wound, but his fatal wound was healed, and the entire earth followed after the beast in amazement. Revelation 13 verse 3. The healing of this wound will surprise the world, leading to a widespread admiration and submission to his authority. This event will show he's in full control of a worldwide empire, where he will make everyone obey and look up to him. What will be so special about the mark of the beast? The mark of the beast talked about in Revelation is a mark that shows support for the Antichrist. Also, he compels all the small and the great and the rich and the poor and the free men and the slaves to be given a mark on their right hand or on their forehead, signifying allegiance to the beast, and that no one will be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. Revelation 13 verses 16 to 17. Accepting this mark signifies loyalty to the Antichrist and rejection of God. It will be a means of controlling economic activity, ensuring that only those who worship the Antichrist can participate in buying and selling. Those who refuse the mark will face severe persecution but will remain faithful to God. How will the Antichrist establish a false religion? The Antichrist will establish a false religion by demanding worship and presenting himself as a deity. This will be supported by a false prophet who will perform miraculous signs to support the Antichrist's divine claims. Then I saw another beast rising up out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke like a dragon. He exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and he makes the earth and those who inhabit it worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He performs great signs, awe-inspiring acts, even making fire fall from the sky to the earth right before people's eyes. And he deceives those unconverted ones who inhabit the earth into believing him, because of the signs which he is allowed to perform in the presence of the first beast, telling those who inhabit the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded fatally by the sword and has come back to life. Revelation 13 verses 11 to 14. This false prophet will use miraculous signs to persuade people to worship the Antichrist, creating an image of the beast and enforcing the acceptance of the mark. This will unite political power with religious authority, building a total control religious system focused on the Antichrist. Ultimate defeat of the Antichrist. This event is a pivotal moment in biblical prophecy, marking the end of the Antichrist's reign and the triumph of Jesus Christ. How will Jesus defeat the Antichrist at his second coming? Jesus will defeat the Antichrist at his second coming by casting him into the lake of fire. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he who was riding it is called Faithful and True, trustworthy, loyal, incorruptible, steady, and in righteousness he judges and wages war on the rebellious nations. His eyes are a flame of fire, and on his head are many royal crowns. And he has a name inscribed on him which no one knows or understands except himself. He is dressed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies of heaven, dressed in fine linen, dazzling white and clean, followed him on white horses. From his mouth comes a sharp sword, his words with which he may strike down the nations. And he will rule with a rod of iron, and he will tread the winepress of the fierce wrath of God, the Almighty. And on his robe and on his thigh he has a name inscribed, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Revelation 19 verses 11 to 21. This passage describes Jesus returning as a warrior, leading the armies of heaven. In this final battle, known as Armageddon, The Antichrist and his forces will be overthrown. Jesus will capture the Antichrist and the false prophet and cast them alive into the lake of fire, marking the end of their reign of fear and harm. What events will lead up to the Antichrist's defeat?